first session, that's the overview of India and Dubai food trade in 2020, which says that how to build strong bilateral trade between two countries. Dubai plays a key role in the distribution of over 70% of the UAE food imports, which are then re-exported to over 160 countries. In 2016, India accounted for the largest share with 63% of these re-exports. India is a vital trade partner of Dubai. The food market in India is expected to reach US $93 billion by 2020. Furthermore, by next decade, this relationship is going to be stronger. So to share more about Dubai and India as a vital trade partner, Dubai's role as an export and re-exporting hub, the food and beverage industry role with Indian and Dubai relationships, and to steps taken by both the governments, what are the transformations basically in the food economy and implications for policy making. So we would like to again call upon our stage our moderator, Mr. Amit Lohani, and our chief economist, Dr. Ashraf Mahate, and Mr. Pankaj Bodke as a panelist. Thank you.
Welcome to all of you. Let's start with the fact that India is one of those markets which is growing at a phenomenal pace. The Indian market currently for international food is growing at about anywhere between 23 to 50% year on year on different categories. The health categories are growing at a much faster pace. Dubai has been playing the most predominant role when it comes to businesses in India because of its proximity to India, because of businesses in India run by a lot of Indians, and the fact that the food business is something where it's a lot of passion. It's just not food, it's all about passion, and we in India have a very diverse palate. As our MC was talking about the $90 billion market, our Association Forum of Indian Food Importers controls about $5.2 billion worth of imports into the Indian market. And the fact that the relationship between the two countries has been very strong, and we used to find that these smaller quantities of products, the first influx used to come in from Dubai. And on that, I want to, first of all, take Dr. Ashraf, who's a great friend. I know him for the last so many years. The fact that, as a chief economist, you know what the market is. India has its own set of challenges, own set of problems. We have our tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers, and with government, the policies are always ever changing. We find that Dubai Exports has put in a lot of effort in the last few years of coming down to India, meeting exporters and importers, trying to set up their offices in Dubai and trying to work on a bilateral relationship and growing business between Dubai and India. What do you see in the next few years? What are the measures that can be taken to take this relationship to the next level?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amit. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. And it's not been a few years. It's actually 11 years together we've been working. So it's certainly a pleasure. And actually, it's very interesting. 11 years ago, when we first started working together, we didn't have a single transaction.
Yes.
Today, we are working in a very elaborate, in a very concrete manner. And it's wonderful to see a wonderful delegation coming from India. And these numbers are increasing each year. In fact, for whole of Gulf Food this year, we're expecting more than 239 delegates. And if you remember, the first year we did this, it was like 35, 36.
Absolutely.
It is a small number. So a lot of this comes from awareness building. And we have spent a lot of time. And I really have to thank Amit for this because he's been really incredible. And of course, our embassy, who give us visas within hours of our request and all the other support. But we have actually been working with Indian companies and Indian authorities and Indian organizations from day one. When we started, our first office was in India. Our first event was in India. And we are carrying out a number of activities in building relationships. This is despite the fact that largest Indian business community outside India is in Dubai. This is also despite the fact that India is one of our largest trading partners. It's not the largest. It used to be, but it's not. And I'll come to reasons as to why. But we have also been participating in Indian food exhibitions and also events, as you know, with her honorable minister in Delhi. So there are a lot of interactions, but I'm actually very positive about going forward. I'm positive for a number of reasons, because why does trade take place? Trade takes place because of trust. You have to build trust. Trust comes in two ways. Firstly, what we see here, the face-to-face getting to know people. And secondly, what Dubai Department of Economic Development has done is we created something called the Global Buyer Protection Program.
Yes. This
means that any buyer from India can be assured that they're dealing with a verified exporter from Dubai. As long as they have a DED license, they know that repents can come to them if they do not fulfill the contract, right? This gives you assurance. It's buying with security. So one can have a wonderful website, brilliant social media, but you don't know who's behind this facade. But when you're dealing with a Dubai exporter, you know that this person has been verified. You know that there is something called Consumer Compliance and Protection Program that actually supports this. So you have the backup. So in that sort of sense, you have trust and you have awareness. Then you find that a lot of government-to-government initiatives that have taken place. I'll just mention two, otherwise we'll be here all morning. But the two that give me a lot of positivity is the fact that last year they announced the food corridor. The idea behind the food corridor is how UAE companies will invest in India, because at the moment 30% of the food production in India is actually wasted, right? Is how to capitalize on this and how to turn this into usable revenue. In fact, this particular initiative also goes all the way down to the farmers, so the farmers also benefit. And if you look at the initial data or initial analysis, 200,000 jobs will be created in India because of this initiative, right? And how does that support Dubai? Well, or the UAE, because the products will be coming to UAE and we exported, as our wonderful MC said, to over 160 countries. And in fact, that's already happening now, because if I just use one example of fresh fruits and vegetables, the UAE is the world's largest re-exporter of fresh fruits and vegetables. I can also go into nuts and dried fruits, which again, the UAE is the world's largest re-exporter of this. And the reason for this, again, makes sense. The UAE has only 1% arable land. So you have to work with partners, and you have to work with efficient partners. The second initiative that also makes me very, very confident, very happy, is the currency swap that was announced last October. And this again means that the trades will be done in local currency, and then you have the currency swap that supports this. So what does this do? This takes away currency fluctuation risk from the importer and the exporter. Of course, you can do hedging techniques, but hedging costs money. So we have two really good initiatives. One, the consumer compliance one, that gives you trust for no additional cost. And the second one, the currency, right? Now, in addition to that, we have on-the-ground activities, trade missions, exhibitions, connectivity, networks. Yeah? I think this leads me to believe the projections that our MC said is 100 billion for 2020. I genuinely believe it's going to be a lot more. I believe it's going to be a lot more because India is becoming more and more urbanized.
Absolutely.
And with urbanization, you find that tastes change. There's a higher demand for processed goods and also higher demand for imported goods. Because again, this is part of everyday life. You taste different foods and you want to try different things. On the other hand, I also see a greater demand from the UAE, not only because of rising population, but of hospitality and also the re-export sector, right? I think these are great boosts that will increase the level of trade between the two countries.
Absolutely. It's absolutely fundamental for any country to have these relationships and tie up. And India and UAE have been having this relationship for almost decades now. The fact that we find resonance in UAE, and UAE is also the opening center for us. It's like when you talk about the re-export, we know the fact that UAE has been re-exporting many of these products and opens up doors to Africa, GCC countries, which is a phenomenal thing for any importer, exporter, or manufacturer in that field. You spoke about the 30% wastage. The new data which the Ministry of Food Processing, Ms. Badal, has released talks about that there's been a reduction and now the wastage is only about 9.5%, which is phenomenal for that fact. And we still need all these technology, and the technology transfer is very important. I want to understand one thing where, we have these free trade agreements with many countries, and this gives us an advantage of bringing products from various countries. If you talk about Singapore, Malaysia, we have an ASEAN trade, we have SAFTA with our neighboring countries, where the custom duty tariffs are lowered. Has UAE been trying to work on a free trade agreement with India, and would it help in the bilateral trade in terms of reduction of duty, because that makes it much easier for an importer to import and for an exporter to export?
Okay, that's actually a very good point. I'm actually an advisor to the National Free Trade Agreement Committee at the UAE level, but it's also important to appreciate that, like the European Union, the GCC does free trade agreements at the GCC level. So they go into three levels. First, there's a Dubai level, which again I advise to. Then there's a UAE level, and then it's the GCC level. So in that sort of sense, it's a little bit more time consuming than if you have bilateral agreements. So for example, India's done a bilateral with Singapore. Right? Yep. Even though both are members of different trade blocs. Yes. So bilaterals are a lot easier to negotiate. When you have a bloc, a customs union, which the GCC is, and then you negotiate this, it takes a lot more time. Having said that, the GCC is negotiating 22 free trade agreements covering 78% of UAE trade, right? That said, at the moment, they've only got three in place, which is GAFTA, the Greater Arab Free Trade Agreement, with AFTA, the European Free Trade Agreement, and Singapore. Australia and New Zealand have been initialed, so there are others coming. And of course, the India GCC has been in discussion for a long time. And again, there are very good benefits, and I've looked at this, and I can tell you there are very good benefits for both countries. Because the whole idea behind free trade agreements, as you said, is initially to reduce the tariffs. But the tariffs into the UAE are only a small percentage, right? Yep. It's negligible, right? So in that sort of sense, it doesn't make any difference for an Indian exporter to export here, because it's the same level as the VAT, right? And if you're re-exporting, there is no tariff, because you're bringing them to a free zone, and then you're exporting them to a third country, right? Now, it will benefit the UAE because it will allow goods to be imported into India. Then we have another part of the free trade agreement, which is SPS, sanitary and psychosanitary standards. And you have another aspect, which is called technical barriers to trade. These two, I think, are the most important, because modern day blocking of trade is not about tariffs. We know about the two countries which are negotiating now, but by and large, it's not about tariffs, it's about non-tariff barriers, and how you use health standards or other ways of stopping trade. Now, free trade agreements, of course, is just one avenue. We have another initiative called IHAV, International Halal Accreditation Forum, because halal itself is also a technical barrier to trade, because I have to accept your halal standards, you have to accept my halal standards. If you are exporting to the UAE, you have to get a halal standard. So this creates costs. And for large companies, it's not an issue. But when you talk about small and micro and medium-sized firms, it's a large cost. So we have International Halal Accreditation Forum, which is the passport for halal trade. At the moment, this is recognized by 28 countries. And I think there are about another 35 which are in negotiation. India is one of them. So this will again improve and increase the flow of trade. Then we have rigidities, which I'm sure you're all aware, on the Indian side, in terms of not using codex systems, etc. And I don't really want to go into that.
No, but we are already fighting that. So right. we are the people who are facing the brunt in India. So the non-tariff barriers are something which we speak to all our bureaucrats about, and we are aware of the non-tariff barriers, and we've been fighting those, and we've got a lot of them removed, but still there are many. And so it's like, Indian people, the bureaucrats want to protect the country, which I don't believe in this globalized economy is the right way to do things. But that's been the mandate, and it's very difficult to change old school. And we have this challenge, but I think with bilateral agreements, this challenge also gets withered away, because there is always something that India wants to export, and there is something which India wants to import. Now, when you have something on those lines, the benefit is that you have something on the table where you can have a bargaining chip. So that is something that everyone uses. And
But I think in the case of the UAE and India, it's a lot of similar. It's very synergistic, because one of the areas that you support very strongly is farming and dairy industry.
Yes.
The UAE has only 4,500 cows, right? You're not going to export a lot of milk, I can tell you that, right? No, you're going to export a lot of dairy products, right?
So,
So there's a lot of similarity.
Yes, so the challenge in India is that we consume about 90% of our milk raw. We only do, we just kind of pasteurize it and sell it across. We don't value add to the milk industry. And the dairy industry is such a phenomenon. We are one of the largest dairy producers in the world, and we still do not process it. In fact, day before yesterday, I was reading a report, even our buffalo meat exports have gone down by about 12%, which, the fact that China and Africa were our major markets for buffalo meats. And obviously, there have been certain factors relating to that. But I want to take it to Mr. Pankaj. The fact that you are sitting in Dubai, which is considered, the first pit stop of Indian people when they want to travel abroad, and we've been discussing this with many of us, that everyone who wants to go to a foreign land, his first stop comes out to be Dubai. Visas are a problem. Absolutely, sometimes I hear these stories that Indian visa is much more difficult to get than a Dubai visa. So, which is something which is, I've got Britishers, Americans who face problems who want to come to India, and the visa is a problem. But now I think there is a lot of e-visa coming in, and we've allowed a lot of countries, and it's becoming much and much more convenient. And that's something that needs to happen. When you want business to happen, you have to have that ease of business. You cannot make it difficult and cumbersome for someone to apply for a visa application, and he has to fill 5 pages, and it becomes difficult to do that. But sitting in the council, I want to understand that how have you seen the transformation in terms of the trade happening over the years? What are the challenges and sometimes complaints or suggestions that you get in terms of trade between India and Dubai?
First of all, let me thank IFD for this wonderful initiative, and also thank them for having me here together in this esteemed company. Mr. Amit, as regards visa, let me first address the visa issues. I can definitely assure you that we have streamlined the visa process a lot. Okay, there may be some hiccups in individual cases, but overall, if you ask me, we process the visa within 3 days. So within 3 days after application, 3 working days, we issue the visa. In many cases, we even issue the same day. Okay. So though there is no Tatkal service as we have in passport services, but not in visa as of now, you don't need to visit the consulate where you actually can come across the bureaucracy. So we did not want that interface with the bureaucracy, because we knew that there are certain issues with Indian bureaucracies and people don't want to go to bureaucrats. So we cut down that. We have already outsourced that. We have also made online visa available for the foreign nationals. They can apply online, but as of now, the limitation is that online visa can be applied only for 2 visits in India within a year. And we are actually working in the direction of even doing away with that particular thing. So that was about the visa. I can assure that if the consulate in Dubai is very efficient as regards visa issuance is concerned, unless and until there are certain nationalities for which we need a pre-clearance. If that is required, then we have to refer the matter to India, and then that takes time. But otherwise, when there is no pre-clearance required, we issue visa very efficiently. Another thing which Mr. Amit spoke about was the challenges and what development we have seen. As you all know that Dubai is springboard for Indian exporters. Many Indian exporters use Dubai as a first pit stop, as Mr. Amit said, and it gives us a platform to explore African as well as European markets and also the CIS markets nowadays. And when you are in Dubai, you can cater to entire of the whole of GCC. As regards volume have been growing. There was a dip some years back, but now we are once again picking up. The volume is already like the entire trade volume is more than $50 billion now between UAE and Dubai. And if we talk about the food sector is also quite a promising sector for exports, and for we are like the food trade between UAE and India stands to about $2.5 billion a year now. And with the talks about the India-UAE food corridor coming up, it is not only about India-UAE food corridor, but just a few days back, our Commerce Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, he also informed that even the Saudi Arabia is also is partnering with India for their food security. Food corridor will definitely be a very good initiative for the bilateral trade. Definitely, it will create jobs in India. It is expected to create 200 million jobs. It is expected to help the farmers directly, and that has been the aim of this current government. Apart from food currency swap will be going a long way. But what will be impacting the most is the recent agricultural export policy which has been unveiled by the government very recently, and wherein the government of India is focusing on doubling the farmers' income by 2022. And if you go through the policy, you can see that UAE finds a specific mention in relations to certain products. So the policy also aims at not only doubling the farm income, but diversifying and making large India's export basket of food products. So we are now looking at specific products. What we used to do earlier, like we would cater to the domestic market, and if there is a surplus, we will export it. But with this policy, we will be aiming to identifying certain products, certain food products which are in high demand across the globe, and we will be concentrating on producing them and then trying to add value to them and export them. Value addition will be another sector where the policy is intending to focus. So I suppose with all these initiatives, the food corridor, the currency swap agreement, obviously the proximity to UAE and the policies in the UAE, we are bound to see this trade between India and UAE, particularly in the food sector, grow. We are expecting that it will grow threefold by 2022. And I don't think any reason that it would not happen. Challenges, if you talk about, yes, there are certain challenges for the food trade between India and UAE. And we, as a consulate, we have been in constant touch with the Ministry of Climate Change here in UAE, which is a policy-making body as regards food sector is concerned, as well as with the Dubai municipality, which actually implements those policies for ironing out the challenges. And some challenges I can just mention here is that we have seen that many imports from India to UAE and particularly to Dubai, and Dubai municipality has informed us about this, that many of these consignments, they do face certain contraventions, or they do contravene certain policies or certain regulations of Dubai municipality. And these are not unsurmountable challenges. Like the challenges that from the data which we got from Dubai municipality, we could see that non-printing of the labels in Arabic. It's a very simple thing. It can be done very easily in India itself at much lesser cost. But then because the Indian exporters are not aware about that, there are certain contraventions. And like not producing the original certificates, health certificates or halal certificates, or fish not being fed the pork feed. These are certain certificates which these things we already do. In India, the fish is not fed pork feed. But there is need to be making these people aware about that, that okay, it's not only that you should not do it, but you should also show that you are not doing it. So there is a certification required. And we are in, recently we have sent a detailed report to the Ministry of Commerce and also to APEDA regarding this, that these are the requirements and these are the challenges, these are the issues which importers might face here or are facing here. So you need to conduct an outreach program in India and tell the Indian importers, Indian exporters about these issues. And even in the consulate, we have had some sessions with the importers who import food items from India. And we told them that please advise your suppliers to comply with this. Similarly, now on 20th of February, as the Gulf Food will be going on during that time, we have invited a delegation of Indian exporters who will be here in any case, and we have also invited Dubai municipality officials who have agreed to come there, so that we can make Indian exporters aware about the requirements which they need to comply with, which they need to fulfill before sending or before exporting the goods, the products to India. That will help improve India's export to UAE and subsequently to the other countries in Africa and CIS and EU. And it will also help developing brand India, so that the consumers, because consumer in UAE is very quality conscious. So we need to, because you are all representing Indian exporters here, so we need to understand that quality only will sell. And I suppose the steps the government of India is taking and the initiatives which APEDA is going to take in coming times, and I would also request IFD to please chip in that, so that you make the Indian exporters aware about all these things. We are already relaying the requirements to the Ministry of Commerce, and so that the trade grows. So I suppose I don't see any reason that the trade, bilateral trade in food sector, both ways, because even Dubai exports many quality products to India, including the nuts and the dates, and which has a very good market in India. So I don't see any reason that why it should not increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj. Actually, it's been enlightening to hear that the Indian Council over here has been working hard towards creating a ready reckoner, which you've shared with APEDA and the ministry. We would be most happy if you can share the same with us, so that we can, because a lot of our food importer members are also into value addition, they are into re-export, they are also producers, manufacturers. So it's not just food importers that we have, and we have a bunch of exporters over here. I would, propagate the fact that you need to understand the nuances of trade. You need to make sure that all the lines are checked. The pre-checks are very important. We, for our imports, have kind of a checklist which we've created after consultations with various ministries in India, because food is not governed by just one ministry. There are different ministries governing food. So what we've done is, from the animal husbandry to plant quarantine to food safety to legal metrology, we've created a checklist which we share with our members, which gives you all the... So most of the rejections in India are not because of quality standards, but labeling deficiencies.
That's it.
So less than 1% of the total imports into India are rejected because of labeling deficiencies. So which is not something that means that there are quality products coming into the country, but the fact that we are not able to comply by the labeling norms makes it difficult for the Indian authorities, and we see those rejections. As I said, that the many exporters over here, and they would need that know-how, the technical know-how, because they want to export, they want to expand their horizon beyond India, and they have created a value product. The packaging industry in India has developed a phenomenal pace, and we see, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, we used to find these European packagings that we used to kind of savvy, and we used to say that these are the packagings that should come to India. Now the same packagings are being produced in India and available in India, and at a phenomenally low price. It's a very different market. If you look at the UAE market, it's a premium market. The cost of goods over here is almost, I would say, 2 to 3 times what the cost of goods is there in India. So that means there is great potential for Indian companies to export their product into UAE and then enter other markets over here. One thing which I wanted to talk to Dr. Ashraf is the fact that a lot of our companies, members, importers, exporters want to set up offices in India, in Dubai. They want to use Dubai as a hub, as a trading partner. Now, the cost of that is something which sometimes is very, I would say, it's not something which is very encouraging sometimes for a lot of companies, especially small and medium enterprise. So large companies, it's not difficult for them to spend that kind of money, but the smaller companies, it's a deterrence that they are scared of investing so much of money because they do not know the scale of exports that they would be able to. Is there a program done by Dubai Exports or the Dubai government to promote these Indian exporters to come and set up their offices in Dubai and help them to obviously enter the GCC market and beyond that the African and the European market?
Amit, there are a number of ways that micro and small companies can work. I always believe when I go to these sort of events is to encourage them to work with distributors and agents in the first place. There are two good reasons for doing this. Firstly, you have no additional cost beyond, what sort of relationship you have. It can be ex works or it can be on port. So you're not actually dealing with the regulatory issues. And a lot of these companies are well versed in how to import the products. They have established distribution networks to the whole region. So why would you, as a micro firm or a small firm, seek to replicate that?
True.
I mean, there's little logic in doing so. And also it gives you the growth that you need, and it gives you the experience you need to learn more about the region. Of course, this sort of strategy doesn't fit all the companies. Some companies want to set up themselves. And I think the long ago myth was that it's expensive to set up in Dubai. It's no longer the case because this is something that I think the authorities have examined time and time again to make themselves more relevant in a changing environment. So, for example, now we have small units, plug-and-play units. In fact, there are warehousing facilities in Davsa, which I've seen myself, where you pay per shelf.
Wow.
So you pay per day. So you don't actually have to hire for a year or a month or whatever. No. You have goods coming in, you have a buyer coming on T, so you have goods coming T plus naught, you have goods going out T plus 3, you need for 3 days, you pay for 3 days. You have some rejected products, you pay for the space. So there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of different ways. I mentioned Davsa, I mean similar things exist in Javsa as well.
Okay.
So there are a lot of plug and play facilities. There are a lot of companies that are established purely to service re-exporters. These are third-party warehousing companies who again give you a very low-cost entry route. So I think in terms of logistics, there are ample opportunities. And I use the example of the pharmaceutical sector. The pharmaceutical sector in India is extremely advanced in this way because they re-export a lot of their products through Dubai to Africa. In fact, 60% of the pharmaceuticals entering Africa are from India through Dubai. And how do they do it? Because pharmaceuticals in many ways are like foods. You need controlled controlled environment for many of them. You have regulatory issues, you have short shelf lives, expiry dates. So I think there are a lot of similarities. But then you see 60% of the pharmaceuticals entering Africa from India through Dubai. So they worked out how to work with logistics companies in a very cost-effective manner. Now, in terms of setting up operations here, we now have many opportunities and many possibilities that did not exist a few years ago. For example, you can now set up something called an online business, which does not require to have office here, right? Okay. We'll give you a bank account, will allow you to have a license, etc. Okay? All the way to using serviced offices all the way to using incubators. So I think you can actually start now with something as low as a couple of $1,000s and then increase as your budget and your business grows.
Fantastic. I want to open this to the audience because at the end of the day, all of us are sitting over here to help the exporters get the gist of the market, understand their nuances, if they have any challenges, if they want to understand how the entire process works. We would be more than happy if anyone has any questions regarding exports to Dubai or vice versa for that matter.
Mr. Pankaj Bhodke, that for Indian businessmen who want to develop a trading relationship with Dubai, do you have an annual calendar of your programs or your support system which you organize? Because we hardly get an idea about what our embassy is doing for us, as trade partners, importer or exporter, either way. So if anything of that sort, if you can keep us in loop or FIFI in loop, we'll be very happy.
Yeah, we do not have a calendar of our own, but whenever there is an exhibition, like Pharmax Sale or Gulf Food or any other sectoral exhibition in Dubai, we do conduct some programs in relation to that particular sector in the consulate, or either in the consulate, or maybe if the organizers are conducting some program, we do participate in such type of programs. As regards not related to a particular sector, but overall, we have this India UAE Partnership Summit, which happens in the month of October. We already have had 2 chapters of that. In October last year, we had the 2nd chapter, and once again we will be having another chapter in October, November this year. So that is overall for all the sectors across the board. And apart from that, a regular event, if you talk about as far as the bilateral trade is concerned, is Ayush conference. That is a biennial conference. We had a first international Ayush conference for the first time in UAE in 2017, and we will be having once again in September this year, where there are certain Ayurvedic products and even the nutraceuticals, that sector, they do come up here and they exhibit their own stuff, and we as a consulate we do support that. So these are the 2 regular programs we have annually, but whenever there is a sectoral exhibition, we do conduct programs in the consulate or in one of the venues in Dubai. So that, but yes, as regards keeping you in the loop, we will take note of that, and we will keep FIFI in the loop whenever we do, because as I said, we are in touch with Ministry of Commerce, APEDA, and sometimes FASAI also, but now we will add FIFI to our database for getting in touch with you. Thank you.
So from Dr. Ashraf Mahathir, as FIFI, we have many importers who are becoming more than importers for Indian context. A lot of them are manufacturing by importing raw material into India, and then exporting back to Dubai also probably, and to rest of the GCC nations, and also about the SAARC nations, neighboring nations. So when we import, certain raw material is also have a market in Dubai. So importance of having a Dubai office or a Dubai logistics platform is becoming more and more important for us, and more of time certain labels are required. We can do all those compliances also in Dubai as per the allowance done by our authorities before getting things done into India. So a lot of requirement, a lot of pressure is there on understanding how we can use Dubai infrastructure. People have been using it, but the new generation, the new, a lot of importers or the millennials coming into our trade, they're new to all these, infrastructures, facilities available in Dubai. I would request that if in one of these Gulf Foods, sessions, maybe there could be a separate event or some kind of a tour of showing us around our new importers what all facilities are available and how we can use them to be a better trade partner with Dubai.
Sure. I mean, I think you raise a very important issue, which is the idea of how do you source from Dubai. And I think I'll just re-emphasize what I said at the beginning, which is that if you buy from Dubai, we actually at Dubai Exports help you. That's our key role. We connect you with the right company in terms of whatever ingredients you wish to purchase. And there's also not only ingredients, but also anything else, packaging, any service. And then, of course, there's the consumer compliance that ensures that there is protection for your purchase. Right? Now, in addition to this, global manufacturing is not that I produce the whole thing myself. It's global value chains. In fact, one of our companies is not here today, and I'm very, very proud to say they actually have the largest nut factory in the world in Dubai. Right? Now, the beautiful thing about this is that UAE does not produce nuts, does not produce almonds. Sorry, not nut factories, I meant almonds. It doesn't actually produce almonds. So they import the unshelled almonds, they shell them here, clean them, sort them, and of course they need to find a home for this. Right? So in that sort of sense, there are a lot of companies here that produce the most amazing things, not only in food, but in many, many areas. You talked about packaging. We have nano packaging, which allows food to last longer, have dates, etc. So there are many different things here. And the question is how to get to know about them. And this is why it's very important. The two gentlemen you saw there from Dubai Exports, you should meet with them, and they will connect you to a whole array of companies, from producing logistic services for you, advertising, doing social media, anything that exports, we have those contacts.
Actually, to add to Dr. Ashraf's point of view, the fact that, we find a lot of products which come into India. So the Canadians are unhappy that they export only about 80,000 metric tons of canola oil from Canada, and about 400,000 metric tons comes in from UAE, because the seed comes into UAE and it's processed over here, and then it is sent to India. So the trade deficit is always something which is a challenge for every country. India and Dubai have a trade deficit right now about $15 billion or something. So we are exporting about 25 billion and we are importing about 40 plus billion. So, that is something that needs to happen, and we as traders, we as partners, we can help this trade grow. We can help to create more avenues for us, because at the end of the day, we all are entrepreneurs, small, medium or large, and the entrepreneurial skills that we have will help us to collaborate with all of this. And Dubai Export has been very proactive in those measures, and we can definitely, I'm sure for the next IFD session, we can create a platform where we can do site visits of these units, which would help us to grow our businesses in this part of the world, which is very important for the entire business domain. If anyone doesn't have any questions, or if, see, I'll tell you very frankly, I understand that the audience is overwhelmed. हम लोग सब डरते हैं सवाल पूछने से. हमें लगता है यार क्या सवाल पूछेंगे, पता नहीं कल को किसी को समझ में आए, मैं बोल पाऊंगा या नहीं बोल पाऊंगा. But I recommend that हम बाद में उतरते हैं तो हमसे लोग बहुत सारे सवाल पूछते हैं, लेकिन स्टेज पे पूछने में वो डरते हैं कि इनको मैं गलत ना पूछ लूं. But I recommend that you should always interact, which is very important, because at the end of the day, if we have these gentlemen over here, and they are experts in their field, they are not people who would not help you, and they are here to help you. They are here to engage with you. They are here to promote your businesses at the cost of the fact that the knowledge that they've gained over the years, they're going to impart that knowledge to you to help you grow your businesses. So I think with this we would, oh, okay, hello, that's good. My speech worked.
So while you're waiting for the question, can I just say, Amit,
Yeah.
please take an opportunity to meet the companies,
Yeah.
the UAE companies. Even if you're an exporter, take the time to meet with them. We have companies here now. We have some wonderful companies here from UAE, but also in Gulf Food you'll meet them. There are two things. A, collaboration. You don't have a competitor anymore in the modern world.
Absolutely.
You only have a partner, right? So whether you're a food exporter or an importer, try to meet with UAE companies, because I think collaboration is a key to success.
Hussain.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, it's a good morning, sorry. My name is Hussain. I was born in Dubai, and I've shifted back to India around 3 years back, and I myself have become one of the importers and a member of FIFI, thanks to Mr. Amit and his team. I would like to direct this question to Mr. Amit. FIFI organization coordinates with many other ministries, Malaysia, Spain, Australia, and there are events where they get these delegations or exporters from these countries to India to explain them the Indian market, to visit the Indian market. It's so important for them to understand. Sitting in their own country, it's not possible to do so. But as far as I know, or all the exporters I know from Dubai, this type of event is missing. I'm not sure if this type of event is happening, you know. So are you planning with Dubai Exports to get a delegation of Dubai exporters to India for them to see different markets? And many a times it happens that the events are done in Delhi. Now, India is such a big country that I don't say it's a country, it's a continent. Because Delhi is a different country, Maharashtra is a different country, we all have our different languages, looks, the taste, everything is different. So are you planning a detailed trip? Because I know that Dubai has a lot of factories and a lot of products which will be really loved in India. So is there any such type of event going to happen soon, since Dubai Export also has an office now in India? Thank you.
Yeah. So Hussain, Dubai Export has been, they have had an office since long in India, and they've conducted such things. Obviously, it's never been a large delegation. It's not been like 20 companies from UAE have come into India as part of the delegation. But yes, always through at Food Forum and other platforms, they've come over. We, as a trade body, always recommend that if you want to enter India, the first predominant two cities that you want to go is is Delhi and Mumbai, because major chunk of importers are there. If they go to a Kolkata or a Chennai or a Bangalore, the fact that there is a market over there, but the number of importers is limited in comparison to what you get, the array of importers that you get. So that is something that we definitely, and we would definitely recommend to Dubai Exports to bring a larger chunk of exporters for that matter, to India, whether it is nuts, pasta, water, confectionery. These are products, juices, beverages, which are produced in Dubai and produced at a phenomenally low cost. It's not expensive when you look at the fact that the scale of production is there. One of our members who is a honey producer, in fact, he's setting up a plant in UAE for his honey. So the fact that this bilateral trade is happening, and Dubai Export has always been encouraging this, yes, we can bring in larger chunks of people into the country, and that would help to grow business much beyond what it already is, and it would help the exposure to Dubai companies also to understand about India. So what happens is, a lot of times we find these Dubai companies are happy with, again, dealing with someone that they recognize, that face value, and they have these tie-ups with Indian companies in Dubai who have relationships in India to export their product to the Indian market. India is no longer, I understand trading is very important, but India is now changing from a trading country to a marketing country. You have to market your products in India. You cannot just bring the products and it would start selling on its own. You have to create a brand image. You have to market the product. You have to target the right audience. You have to have the right value proposition. If you don't have all of that, then you are just one of those brands which come into the country and then it vanishes over a period of time, because there would be someone in India who's able to produce the same product at a much lower cost. So we need to understand how the whole Indian market story works, and absolutely Dubai Exports would be more than, I think, happy to collaborate on those.
I think you're right. I mean, we have an office in Mumbai and Delhi, and we've been to Bangalore,
yes, Cochin.
Cochin.
Yes.
But you're right. Again, the idea is that the largest number of buyers are, of course, in Delhi and Mumbai, and of course, the logistics makes sense. Yes. To go to Mumbai. But having said that, you have the opportunity now. You have Moheri here. He can connect you to all. We have 6,300 food companies dealing in any aspect of food. That's either food trading, food manufacturing, distribution, 6,300, right? So you can be connected to them. And again, I urge you to walk around, meet our companies who are here today, and also in Gulf Food, and be connected with them, right? If you have any other issues, Dubai Exports here, you have Moheri, you have Hassan outside, meet with them and share your business cards, so you can actually be part of something called the buyer program, where they actually help you connect with the type of firm that you're looking for, be it in the goods sector or in the service sector.
Hi, good morning to everyone. We have the questions. Actually, the India government is going to rate for any suppliers from India. I mean, do you have any systems where you're going to do the rating for the exporters? So if we had any inquiries of the products, when we're searching it, we know that these products are the quality and the source is the stronger by the rating of the companies. When we are importer from India.
Okay. Please.
Right. As I mentioned earlier, we have two gentlemen from Dubai Exports. All the companies that Dubai Exports works with, our people have gone to see the factory, okay? But we are not ISO experts. So we can get you the certificates, but at least you know that they will comply to whatever conditions you have. So we can actually verify in that sort of terms. Now, the issue is, in terms of standards, this is something you always have to get a third-party verification. Absolutely. That happens in any country, right? Because whether it's halal standards, whether it's safety standards, etc., this is third party. We don't do that. But we verify that the export exists, they're genuine, we have consumer compliance that supports our activities. Yeah?
Fine. So we will touch with the two your persons who's here.
So we have, he's going to talk to you. I think he wants to say something. Please, can we have the mic over here?
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. I do believe that when it comes to rating the actual product, and you actually have the proximity between India and Dubai with 3 hours traveling only, you can always site inspect that manufacturing site. And since you're already here, and hopefully by tomorrow during Gulf Food, you might find some of the products that you might like. During the course of the few days that you are staying here, you can always visit that site and look at what they are producing and how are they producing it. So it is a job that needs to be done by both ends. Apart from having the third party telling you that this product is rated XYZ, you need to go look at it by yourself because this is your business and you know what fits you. So not only the third party, not only the actual manufacturing, but you yourself need to go there and visit that site to know that product and what it means for you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I think this answers your question, and with this, I've been getting signs that we need to close this session. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful audience and your questions, and thank you, Dr. Ashraf and Mr. Pankaj, for being here as part of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, our panelists and our moderator. We would like you to be here for a while, and before we start honoring our guest, Mr. Botke and Mr. Mahate, we would also like to thank everyone here, basically our panelists and our moderator, giving us a lot of information on trading and a lot of information apart from what else we need. Apart from trading, it's not just trading, it's your due diligence research and your marketing and your branding, everything that involves in it. So we would like to honor Mr. Botke and Mr. Mahate. Mr. Amit, we would like you to honor them. Thank you.